it's best to just tell him. I'm pregnant.
Beautiful friend, this is the end.
Oh, hello everybody. So, in the movies Juno and Apocalypse Now, the characters of Mark and Vanessa and Kurtz change significantly as the movies progress, in the eyes of both the viewers and in the main characters. However, how each of these characters evolve is different, very significantly different, between both movies. So, in order to examine this difference, I, Jamie Curry, along with the rest of the others in our team, are going to be examining camera angles,
Lighting,
sound,
of subjectivity,
and how each of these effects are used to show the evolution of each of these characters. So, with that in mind, let's begin! In Jason Reitman's film Juno, the shot is sometimes from Juno's perspective and sometimes is from the third person. Both types of camera angles are used to convey the evolution of the characters of Mark and Vanessa to the viewers. The characters of Mark and Vanessa start in very different places from the character of Juno. When they first meet, the character of Vanessa seems uptight and slightly more distant, and correspondingly is filmed to emphasize how much taller she is than Juno. Mark, on the other hand, is portrayed in a much more easygoing and sympathetic manner, and is correspondingly filmed at an angle that makes him appear shorter and more similar to Juno's height. However, as the character of Mark evolves, the camera makes him appear to slowly grow. In the scene when Mark reveals to Juno that he's leaving Vanessa to become a rock star, the difference in their heights is emphasized by the camera angle and height. Next to Juno, Mark appears huge, imposing, and much more physically separated from Juno. Contrastingly, the character of Vanessa slowly shrinks as the movie progresses. In the stomach scene, Vanessa's height is brought down when she kneels, emphasizing her own envy of Juno, who is able to have children while she is not. It also makes it easier for the audience to empathize with her, making Vanessa seem less distant and uptight and more childlike, making her a far easier character for the audience to empathize with. Contrastingly, in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, the character of Kurtz is showed for more than 3/4 of the movie in picture form only. The angles of these pictures change subtly as the film progresses, starting so that we are looking straight at Kurtz, and then moving slowly upwards so the viewers are looking slightly down at him. This transition is completed when Kurtz is finally shown to us in the flesh. He is filmed from slightly above, making it difficult for the viewers to see his body and to get an idea as to how large he is. This makes him appear formless and emphasizes both his mystery and his threatening nature, and also serves to hide Marlon Brando's enormous stature. In addition, although they are some distance apart, the camera angles in the shots that flash between Kurtz and Willard suggest that they are at the same level as each other, and quite close. This emphasizes how Willard is able to empathize to a certain extent with Kurtz.
lighting really affects how we perceive characters in film. For example, the character of Juno
is accompanied by a warm color palette. Lots of earthy tones, reds, browns, yellows, and this makes us feel comforted about being with Juno, being allied with Juno, and being inside Juno's head. This is repeated throughout the film, for example, in Bleeker's costume, but most notably it is repeated with Juno's first meeting of the character Mark. It's a dark, enclosed environment, and the color palette is desaturated, but it's still familiar to us, and this underlines her connection and attraction to this character. Whereas the character of Vanessa is filmed with a very stark, clean color palette, lots of whites, blues, and grays, which put us at a distance from the character, and the lack of emotion it represents sets us off somehow, and really underlines the fact that we're not supposed to be allied with this character when we first meet her. This changes throughout the movie, and this change is reflected in the color palettes that the director uses while he's filming both characters. In this scene, we find out that we can't trust Mark anymore. Along with the other directorial decisions, his color palette shifts. Red is much more saturated, giving the scene a tense, violent feel, and the other tones are skewed far darker, so that the scene feels all at once high stakes and hopeless. We know now that Mark is not the character we should be rooting for. Instead, we should be rooting for Vanessa, as we see in the following scene. Here, Vanessa's color palette represents her life's new course. The muted yellow-heavy scheme lends us a much more comfortable feel than the introductory scene, and the darker tones draw us in, removing the sense of unease we felt with everything being so bright in the first scene. By now, Vanessa, not Mark, deserves our allegiance.
So lighting is used to affect the character of Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, but in a much different, more subtle manner. Because information is given to us about Kurtz in a very binary manner of lights and darks.
We can only get the information Willard is given in the photographs. The lighting gets progressively darker and more drastic in the pictures until we finally see Kurtz on film. Here we see Kurtz shot in exclusively stark lighting. Most of his bulky frame is in shadow, and our information about him is very limited. This alone would set us at unease, and the warm color scheme couples that unease with the violent sense of the act we know is about to come. The final shot of the scene is Willard's silhouette standing in a powerful stance wreathed in a fiery orange glow. The parallels here represent Willard's descent into the madness that has set upon Kurtz after all that he's been through. They are both now completely engulfed in the heart of darkness.
In Apocalypse Now, we learn more about Kurtz through the events that Martin Sheen's character experiences. In the Flight of the Valkyries sequence, the viewer gets a deeper understanding of the absurdity of the Vietnam War. The contrast between the music and the soldiers' actions emphasizes the normality of the horrors of the war. The scene switches from diegetic to non-diegetic music so that the music continually plays, even when the camera is outside the helicopter. At the end of the movie, when Willard goes to kill Kurtz, we hear "This Is the End" by The Doors playing. This brings us back to the movie's opening sequence. The song then becomes mixed with the diegetic reading of Kurtz's audio journal.
But their commanders won't allow them to write fuck.
This serves to embed us deeper into Kurtz's mind in his final moments. In Juno, when we first meet Vanessa, we hear smooth jazz music playing. This indicates the socioeconomic and behavioral differences between Juno, who is often accompanied by indie music, and Vanessa. At the end of the movie, when Vanessa embraces her child, "I Love You" by Sea of Love is playing. This shows the evolution of Vanessa into a more likable, motherly character. Juno's view of Vanessa is conveyed by non-diegetic music. Her relationship with Mark is shown on a diegetic level. The two originally bond over their similar music tastes. However, at the end of the movie, when Juno and Mark have their falling out, she criticizes his music tastes. The change in Juno's opinion of Mark's music is symbolic of her change of opinion of Mark.
I bought another Sonic Youth album, and it sucks. It's just noise.
Juno and Apocalypse Now utilize subjectivity to different degrees in both the films in order to create an evolving opinion of the secondary characters, Mark and Vanessa, and Kurtz. Apocalypse Now is a much more subjective film. All of the audience's experiences are filtered through the perspective of Willard, therefore our opinion of Kurtz changes along with his. For example, we never have any shots in the film that Willard would not be observing. Sound is a powerful way to bring the audience into the mind of the main character, and it is used extensively in Apocalypse Now to align the audience with Willard's growing realization of the absurdity of the Vietnam War. For example, in the Flight of the Valkyries scene and in the Do Long Bridge scene. Many shots in Apocalypse Now are filmed from what might actually be Willard's perspective, pulling us further into his mind. Juno is a much less subjective film, with the audience oftentimes given more information than Juno herself has. This allows us to formulate evolving opinions of Mark and Vanessa independently of Juno, though we eventually are led to the same conclusion. For example, multiple scenes of Mark and Vanessa don't even have Juno present in them, allowing the audience privileged information that influences our views of these characters. Also, as opposed to Apocalypse Now, in Juno we generally get few perspective shots from Juno, and very few close-ups during her interactions with Mark and Vanessa. This gives the audience distance to judge the character interactions for themselves.